Why would we play, what is this, All-American Rejects? And then what this is, why would we play that when we have the lead singer Bowling for Soup coming on right now? Garrett, delete 4 points off of your total. You just lost points for that one. All right, you're listening to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. We're live from the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. I'm in the exhibit hall, the Amy G. Carter exhibit hall on aisle 400. And special treat here, our honored guest of the day is someone you're familiar with his work, whether you recognize his name or not. His name's Jaret Reddick. You probably know him from his work on Bowling for Soup. You probably heard him sing the theme song to Phineas and Ferb. You probably heard him at your kid's birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese on the loudspeaker. This is a guy that I just can't get away from, but I'm happy to have him on the James Show. Welcome, Jaret Reddick.
Hey, and you know what? A little tidbit for you.
The crowd got excited.
The All-American Rejects got their record deal opening for Bowling for Soup at Curly's in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
No way! This is what I want. I want all the cool little stories like that, Jaret. Because you probably don't remember meeting me. I had some friends in bands back in like 1999, and I remember there was like Bowling for Soup and Baboon were like two of my favorites. And I'm like, these two bands, they're actually going to make it and do something. Now, Baboon never did, but y'all took off after that. And then I saw you again because 20-something years ago, I was on the Pugs and Kelly show, and you guys came in on a regular basis. And I saved a couple of the recordings y'all did because I'm such a nerd fan over here. Y'all did an acoustic version of Life After Lisa and an acoustic version of Girl All the Bad Guys Want. And so, Jaret, I saved it. And when my kids, I now have 4 kids, and they're big fans of Phineas and Ferb, and through that, they discovered Bowling for Soup, and now they can just say, Alexa, play Bowling for Soup. And I got to listen to you for about an hour and a half, Jaret. But I was like, I've met that guy, and so I play him. Yeah, so that's kind of what a sick fan I am. What have you been up to for the last 20 years? Give me like the summary of your career path since that 20 years ago when I recorded that.
Well, actually, here's what else is crazy. So 2004 is when Hangover You Don't Deserve came out, which is our biggest album. It had 1985 and Almost and Ohio Come Back to Texas and some other hits. So right when we got back from recording that record, we came on the Pugs and Kelly show, and we were doing a live thing at Duke's Roadhouse. Yeah. And Pugs was like, man, play us a new song. And we couldn't do like any of the singles yet. And so we actually played two-seater for the very first time ever. Not even just in front of people ever was on that show. But anyway, there's another little tidbit for you.
So how did you make the jump from being Bowling for Soup to getting the Phineas and Ferb gig? I haven't heard that story before. Well,
it's kind of like many things that have happened to me over the years. The guys that created Phineas and Ferb were fans. They worked together on the Simpsons, and then one went on to create the show Rocko's Modern Life, and the other one went on to be one of the early directors and animators for Family Guy. And they came back together when the idea for Phineas and Ferb started rolling around, and one of the guys just said, we got to get Bowling for Soup to do the theme song. And so it sort of deepened from there, and then they wanted me to rewrite the theme song into a full-blown 3.5-minute song, and I got to audition for a part on the show and got cast as Danny from the band Love Handle. And so, it's one of those things where it's like that happened. We got the opportunity because of Bowling for Soup. It's like, we didn't get it because of Bowling for Soup, but definitely it helps to get opportunities, that's for sure.
Did you write the Phineas and Ferb theme song?
So I did not write the theme song itself, but what I wrote was the song Today's Going to Be a Great Day, which incorporates the theme song into it and makes it into So that makes it into Disney wanted something that they could use to promote the show at movie theaters and make like a music video for it, but the theme song wasn't long enough. And so I took that theme song and made it into Today's Going to Be a Great Day.
Awesome story. Okay, so how did you make the jump from that to Chuck E. Cheese, of all things?
Well, so similar to that, Bowling for Soup's doing pretty well, and I was doing improv comedy. There used to be a place here called Ad Libs, and I started at Ad Libs, and me and a couple of the guys branched off and did our own comedy troupe for a while. And the two guys that got Bill Cochran was doing comedy as well, improv comedy as well back then at Adlibs. And he worked at the company that got the new account for Chuck E. Cheese when they were rebranding. And that story is crazy because I actually never auditioned. He had made this audition reel to pitch me and stuff, and they had already decided that I was going to be the Mouse. And so when I went in to cut my first things, I thought I was auditioning, and when I left, they were like, okay, well, we'll see you again in a few months. And I was just like, oh, okay. My manager calls and was like, how was the audition? I was like, dude, I think I work here. You know, I think I just cut the commercial. And so that's been 12 or 13 years ago.
See, it was a little surprise to me because I go into Chuck E. Cheese, and first off, they didn't have tokens anymore. Like when we were kids, they had tokens. Now they have swipe cards. And then, like, the voiceover on the loudspeaker, I was like, is that Jaret? We can't get away from this dude. What the heck?
I know. It's definitely one of those things where I between that and then morning TV, and a lot of times at Christmas I'll get a few commercials, you know, for toys and things like that, and doing voiceover or singing and stuff. And I'm always surprised when like a really hardcore Bowling Pursuit fan has kids and they're not sick of me yet. But you know, it doesn't seem to be happening all that much.
Well, how wild is it that your popularity continues? There's not a whole lot of bands I was listening to in 2004 that my kids are listening to on the Alexa on a regular basis. And I think that's just good songwriting, you know, the timeless nature of it. It wasn't a fad. It wasn't a trend. It's just good songs.
Well, dude, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I mean, I certainly think that our songs have aged well. And you know, it's funny, we re-recorded a bunch of our songs for our second greatest hits recently, and you know, I actually thought about High School Never Ends. You know, it has a bunch of like you know, references and stuff to pop culture, and I thought, man, I might have to change the words, and I was just like, man, I don't know, it still all makes sense. But you know, I think pop punk is just kind of one of those genres of music that is just going to ebb and flow. You know, it's going to sort of have its peaks and valleys, and right now there's a big peak because, you know, 2002 to 2004 was kind of the heyday, and now Bowling Pursuit, New Found Glory, Simple Plan, Less Than Jake, Story of the Year, Yellow Card, everybody's got albums that just turned 20, and we're either touring on those records or have toured on those records. And then you got Sum 41, who just did a 2-year world tour, their last tour ever. Blink-182's back together. MGK did a pop-punk record. So, you know, it's sort of out there in the forefront right now. And also, you know, we've always been that band that kids and parents agree on. And even back in the day. So, you know, the teenagers that were coming to see us back then, their parents liked Bowling Pursuit. And I think now those teenagers are parents, you know, like yourself, and their kids dig it, you know, and I think we're unique in the fact that, you know, it's positive and uplifting. It's not too dirty, and you can understand what I'm saying. And so I've always prided myself and really, really been a stickler for enunciation. And I do think that helps too.
Look, one thing that I bet you probably get asked a lot is like, you know, what's the secret to your success? But listening to your stories in the last segment, it kind of overlaps with what I tell people about, you know, how I got to do the jobs that I love. And networking, how super important is networking and all those jumps that you made? Well, I just knew a guy, or there was a guy who was aware of my work, or were you in the comedy troupe with some guy? Yeah, so I think that's something that gets way overlooked is how important networking is to career advancement.
You know, it's such an interesting thing because, you know, there are so many bands out there that are probably 10 times better than mine that will never make it. And so they're and, you know, and you know, voice actors as well. And you know, all of this, you know, I think success depends on so many things. I think luck is a real big part of it, but also relationships. And, you know, so I make it a point to try and just be super kind to every person that I meet, make sure that, you know, that when they think of me, that they think of me in a positive way. And, you know, it's not really necessarily any other reason than that's just what I feel like you should do as a human being. But that certainly pays off, and as people, when they think of you and they're like, oh, well, that guy was cool, we should get that guy to come over here and do this thing. So, and I think that's a big part of social media as well. I mean, social media is sort of just like a branch of networking if you do it right. It doesn't have to be this chaotic, horrible place. It can be a place of positivity and can really, really help as far as like getting your brand out there and those things. And so, yeah, but no, you're right. I think networking is super important and building those relationships. And, quite frankly, from a band standpoint, any band that we've ever toured with, taken on tour or whatever, it always comes from meeting at some point, being like, hey, we should do some shows together. And so when younger bands ask, dude, how do I get on a tour? And, I want to get an agent and get on a tour. Your agent is never going to be able to get you on a tour. It's not how it works unless you're paying to be on it. You got to go out there, go to shows, meet people, meet bands, not necessarily the ones on stage, but the ones that are in the audience with you.
Right, and not just got to meet people, just be a nice person. All right, Jaret, you did the rock star thing for a while. You did the soundtrack thing. You've done the voice acting thing. I hear you're in a country band now, dabbling in comedy. What is next for Jaret Reddick?
Man, I'm going to keep doing music. I've really gone backwards a little bit in that, I'm not really aggressively a voice actor. I do the things that I do, and that's all I do now. Bowling for Soup is my passion and my love. Jaret Ray Reddick is my country band. It is right up there with that. It's those two things, continuing to be a good dad, good husband, and spending as much time with my dogs as I can.
How old are your kids?
My kids are 22, 18, and 12. And so
do they like Bowling for Soup, or do they roll their eyes when they hear those songs?
No, they're all big fans. I mean, my daughter, tried not to make a big deal about it. She was never like an eye roller or anything like that, but she didn't want people to pay attention to her just because of who her dad was. And now that she's sort of out of the high school age and all that, about to graduate from college, and she at her job, people will be stoked about what I do for a living, and so she gets into it now. And the boys have always played it up. So
well, you're lucky, because it's been my observation and other people that I've observed that it doesn't matter how cool your job is or how awesome your life is, there's nothing less cool than whatever your parents are doing. Like anything dad does, it can't be that cool. I was like, I hung out with 50 Cent today, and they're like, whatever. Jaret Reddick, It's been an honor. Thank you very much for coming on the James Show. Again, if you want to see him tomorrow at the charity concert with the 1100 Springs Longhorn Ballroom, you can go to bowlingforsoup.com. Jaret Reddick, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for having me.